There's something that I want to tell you, and I've been debating on how I should start all of this off. I could tell you about all the signs I've reflected on from my past, like how Merida and Artemis were some of my icons growing up, or I could make a funny little skit where I shimmy myself behind the bifold doors and then literally come out of the closet, or I could just say it outright. But I am a storyteller, and I'm afraid that I can't continue creating a certain type of content without a little bit of more explanation first. So, here we go. I made an announcement last year about how I no longer felt comfortable performing not safe for work audios. That was because I was doing some internal work on myself, and this was something that was long overdue. And my therapist helped me a lot, and one of the lessons that I've gathered from her is that maybe what happened to me back then didn't give me the time to work on it or to process what was going on. What's important now is to not regret the fact that I couldn't process it when it was happening to me back then, but instead take comfort and pride in doing it now. And that shook me up, honestly. And I think I'm finally ready now to talk to you about my identity. I think I was in seventh grade when someone first asked me if I was straight. Me being pretty inept in every social scene in my adolescence, thank you, autism, I didn't know how to respond. And at the time, I thought that they were referring to body types. They laughed at me, of course, and I wouldn't completely understand what they were talking about until maybe my freshman year of high school. And now by this time, I knew for certain that romance and sex in movies bothered me. And I wasn't always repulsed by it per se, I just didn't see the appeal. Like, I didn't get why the leading ladies and gents always had to come together at the end, or why people were so invested in other people's relationships, in fiction and in reality. Especially when I was in school, I was never truly attracted to anyone, ever. And I know that there could be a couple of reasons behind this. Just the fact that I wasn't conventionally attractive growing up. And just as the people in my social circle were going on dates and losing their V card, I was the weird kid and I was fine with being alone. And I never had the desire to date anyone. That is, until my first boyfriend came along. And well, you see, at the time, I felt that I was falling behind. And I could sense that perhaps this guy was interested in me, and I figured that maybe I could play along with this. Maybe this would be good for me. And we were both about to graduate, and I didn't want to pass up the opportunity while I was still young and stupid. And even though back then I had already grasped the concept that no matter who you date, there's pretty much only two options. You either stay together or you break up. I knew this, but I did it anyway. I asked him out to prom. And I got a lot of shit for that, actually. Like, my fellow classmates would come up to me and they would say, "You weren't supposed to do that. It's not your job to ask the guy out. You're the girl." But I didn't care. I wanted to take a chance. And after a lot of shadow work, I've discovered that when I was in that relationship, I had to do things that I didn't necessarily want to do. Prom happened and I had my first kiss, and I didn't feel anything. I mean, it was exciting and all, but I just didn't like kissing. And come to find out, I still don't like it. And then when I lost my V card that night, I didn't even expect that to happen. Like, it didn't even cross my mind. I said yes, but still, I didn't even know that that was an option. And I just felt that that was something that I had to do because I figured that no one else was going to come along. And I can recall specific moments, these parts in our relationship where it was a very unhealthy dynamic, where I was in this mindset where I felt like I owed myself to him in some way, in that I wanted to be useful somehow. And I even went so far as to make decisions in order to please him, like keeping my appearance a certain way to appear more feminine, like keeping my hair long, and among other things. I eventually sensed all of this, and I called the end to our relationship because, simply put, he coerced me. And I let it happen because I froze. We were in a hotel room because we had gone to a friend's wedding out of state, and he was my ride home. And I was scared. I think my parents instilled in me pretty early on that being in a relationship is hard work. And there was always something to fight about, like always something to compromise and sacrifice just to keep the relationship alive. Like as if you could never truly be happy. As if that was just how dating was supposed to be. But I know now that that's not true. That day, I knew that this wasn't love. And I broke it off. And people gave me a lot of shit for being the heartbreaker, even though I was the one who was raped. There's a lot of emotional baggage that comes with this, and I am comfortable now, at least, to open up about it. I have doubted myself for a very long time. Even in college, with the circle of friends that I had, it was kind of just stamped on me that I was bisexual because I said once that I could see myself marrying a guy or a girl. And that was true. Like, I didn't really think too much into it. I was like, okay, well, I guess if the opportunity came, then maybe I'd try it out. And yet, at the same time, I didn't feel comfortable explaining anything at the moment. One, because I didn't want any of them to call me a prude or tell me that I'm just confused or traumatized or just list all of these reasons why I couldn't possibly say what I actually am, which is really fucking rude, you know? And two, because I didn't even know that asexuality was a thing until one night I felt so lonely and lost that I just put it into the Google search bar. I don't find anyone attractive. I hit enter, and thus the self discovery began. How I found out that I am the less than 1%, and how I am valid. I am asexual. I experience little to no sexual attraction. And I exist. Now, there's a difference between sexual and romantic attraction, and they can go in so many different directions and degrees and strengths, and I highly recommend doing your own research on this topic as well. My therapist sent me links for the Trevor Project, as well as a couple of videos I'll link in the description, and it's not like I'm a heartless, soulless being that wants nothing to do with anyone ever. Actually, there are times where I would love to go out with somebody. Something as simple as going to 7-Eleven, buying a Slurpee, and then going on a walk in the park afterwards. And I might find cuddling and kissing very uncomfortable, but I still love being hugged and cherished. And although bad things happened to me in my past relationship, I still have these feelings. They just aren't as consistent enough to say that I'm straight or bi or pan or whatever. Those feelings of attraction come and go, but it's still generally rare. And I don't find sex to be an essential part in a romantic relationship. So, gray romantic asexual? Yeah, yeah, that feels right. Asexuality and aromanticism exists, and there is nothing wrong with me. it was just such a struggle coming to this conclusion, and I'm not sure if other people are going to care about this, but I feel better now just saying it out loud. And this gives me a chance to tell you exactly how audio role plays come into this. Not safe for work audio role plays kind of worked as exposure therapy for me, if I'm going to be honest. And it let me piece together everything I couldn't figure out about sex, as well as the trauma that I had experienced. And now I figured that some people might want to learn more about that, but I'm pretty sure that YouTube won't allow that, nor do I necessarily feel comfortable defending myself in every aspect of this. What I will say is that self acceptance didn't come right away to me, because I feel like if you're just starting to dive into the LGBTQAI plus community, you feel like you have to fit into a certain category. Like you have to check off all the boxes. But if you fit into the gray area somewhere, you'd have to constantly explain yourself. And yet, nobody told me that asexual was an umbrella term that could be used to include many other identities. And it felt so right. And then I wrote Light On, which was a script that encompassed everything that I wanted to hear from another person. It was a safer work audio roleplay in which the listener comes out as asexual and their partner provides them comfort. And that was kind of my secret little way of coming out without actually saying anything out loud. And I honestly feel a lot better for that because I read all of the comments under the audios and videos from the creators that have filled that script, and it warms my heart knowing that I was able to help other people that identify as ace just feel seen too. I think that what I'm afraid of the most now is that I'm going to go on to Reddit or Patreon and post a not safe for work audio, and people will be like, "Oh, but you said, but I thought, but what didn't you just say that?" Hey, hey, I'm an actor. I have my boundaries. I can perform what I want to perform in my own time. And I just wanted to make this ramble to make it known that being asexual doesn't mean that I can't write or perform this kind of content. And I've come to accept that love is everywhere, whether I like it or not. And our culture is so over sexualized that I felt ashamed because I was convinced that sex was something that I was supposed to eventually want to do, no matter the gender. And if I wasn't, then something was genuinely wrong with me. But now I know that there isn't. There's nothing wrong with me. And I want to reiterate that everyone is different and that this is just me. Asexuals can still have sex, and it doesn't mean that they don't have the desire to date anyone at all. I'm a human, after all. I still get these feelings, these urges, and when the time comes, I can take care of myself. Or write something out for all of you to enjoy later. Now, the funny thing is, I came out to my parents without actually coming out to my parents because they're not necessarily the kind of people that will always be accepting. I asked both of them individually that if I never got married and never gave them grandchildren, would they be ashamed of me? And my mom responded respectfully, saying that I don't have to worry about it and she respects my wishes. My dad, on the other hand, he swung his head around to me and goes, "You can't even afford to buy your own house. Why would you worry about something like that?" Thanks, Dad. I knew I could always count on you to provide me emotional support and reassurance when I need it. But hey, at least it's better than them saying that they already knew, because actually I find that kind of rude. And that's the story behind that one line that I wrote in Light On about how even if you came out to me and I said that I already knew, wouldn't that be kind of rude? Because yes, that is rude. I feel like if I bucked up so much work and internal struggle and courage to come out to you, and you come back at me throwing it back in my face saying, "Oh, we already knew." Yeah, that's rude. But I just hope that um everything will be okay. And thank you, dear listener, for making it this far with me and for your support. I hope that you enjoy the future content coming up, and it's nice to be out now. Thanks.